Here. Hey, I want to do a real quick video on our offense, and I also want to take a look at Kellen Moore, what he's going to bring to the team. Found a really good article on ESPN that I think really breaks down all the things we've been discussing this offseason about potentially losing players, how we fix the offense, what we do, what Kellen Moore is going to do. Before I get into that, though, I just want to thank the folks at Bolt Pride 602, Bert, that whole time. We had a great time with you guys during the Super Bowl. And man, just love connecting with the fans and Chargers clubs as well. So, as always, guys, Andrew Bolt Bros, let's get into it. All right, folks. So, also, yeah, we got some new merch out here. This is a great little shirt right here. We're actually switching all of our shirts to a more comfortable feeling type of material. So you'll be seeing how that's changing moving forward. So Kyle and James and I got a few ideas that I think are pretty cool moving forward. So guys, check out the merch descriptions down below. So, all right, so let's get into the article. I want to talk a little bit about actually first, before I talk about really the offense, I want to talk something interesting that just came across the wire a few seconds ago about the combine. I thought this was really strange. So let me go into this first, and then I'm going to go into the offense and Kellen Moore. So I thought this was really interesting. The Chargers are not sending or our head coach or general manager to the combine. I thought that was really interesting. I'm thinking, why not? Right? I've thought about it quite a bit this morning, and I kept thinking to myself, okay, well, why wouldn't they go? You know, these folks need to make some real decisions. I would say this. Well, actually, we'll read the article just briefly. And usually, obviously, the head coaches, general managers always go, right? And you know, there's TV times, there's focus on, you know, why you're looking to, you know, you draft a quarterback or a wide receiver, whoever you want to see these people up and personal, and you can have some general discussion with them. But you know, again, they're not going to be there. Now, it's interesting. So again, Brandon Staley and Telesco will not be in Indianapolis, and they're not going to talk to the media also, which is another part of the conversation. It's like, well, why aren't they doing this? And especially when you look at what we've got here. I mean, look at this. 700 times. He almost threw the ball 700 times last season, guys. And, you know, there's just so much put on Justin Herbert, right? And you have to ask this question. We don't even have a backup quarterback at this point. We have both of our backups are set for free agency at this point. Most likely, we're not going to sign either one of them. So it's really an interesting situation. You're like, well, why wouldn't you want to see some of these quarterbacks or people you can get later on in the draft? So again, this is what it says. The reasoning for Staley not being there is unknown, right? Now, there's a couple other teams that will not be there. The Saints, the Patriots, the Rams. It's going to be really interesting. So I think what it really boils down to is this. They are going to be, you know, evaluating players remotely, and our entire prospect division or, you know, our scouts will be there. So whether this is a decision that Brandon Staley made largely and Tom Telesco made largely because that, you know what, we really believe in our scouting team. They're going to pick the right guys for us. Remains to be seen. But again, that's a lot of pressure on Tom Telesco and Brandon Staley to pick the right guys in the draft. And they've already received a lot of heat on that. So it's a little weird to me, especially with ending the season we did last year the way we did, right? You know, losing in the playoffs the way we did, 27-point lead. Oh, don't remind me. You know, it's so frustrating to hear. But at the end of the day, right, there's pressure on this man, right? He's got to prove that he's a leader and a head coach. And we know he is, right? I'm still a fan of him. But, you know, what are your thoughts on this? I mean, I really want to get your opinion. You know, why do you think that Staley and Telesco are not going to this? Again, the only thing I can think of is that they just believe in the coaching, the scouting staff good enough that they can make the right choices for the team moving forward in this draft. So again, it's newsworthy information at best. So let's get into the meat of the conversation here, guys. All right, so I'm gonna play this video real quick. I'm not a huge fan of Stephen A. Smith for the most part, right? But I do think he brought up some pretty interesting points on this video about the Chargers hiring Kellen Moore. And I think it's interesting the way he brings it up, but it's also interesting in the sense that you kind of have to see where this team is going to go with the offense of Kellen Moore. And really, Stephen A. Smith is definitely a fan of Kellen Moore for sure. So let's get into this. I'm going to open it up real quick, and then we're going to hit play. All right, guys.
the Chargers offense, and it's amazing to me. I personally believe Brandon Staley should have lost his job. You got a 27-point lead at halftime in a divisional play in a playoff game rather on the road in Jacksonville. 27-point lead and you blow it in a half. Oh hell no! He'd have flew commercial home. He wouldn't have been on the charter. I'm trying to tell you right there. He'd have been gone. He'd have been gone. All right. So it's interesting that these strenuous efforts have been displayed to save his job and to keep him employed. And obviously we're gonna look. Some people are gonna look at it differently, and they're gonna say, all right, he'll be fine. Here's what I'm thinking. You had the number 3 passing attack in the National Football League if you're the Los Angeles Chargers.
Number 3.
You had the 30th ranked rushing attack with a guy like Eckler in the field, rushing for over 4.5 yards per carry. You had Justin Herbert throw the ball 699 times and barely ran the ball 300 times. So you pass and you utilize your running game. I guess Kellen Moore will exercise some level of balance or employ or implement some level of balance for the Chargers. We'll see what happens. I certainly don't expect them to be worse.
Yeah.
I just think he lucked up landing in this particular spot. That's how I feel about it, but it is what it is. I do think that it's the right move in terms of going to Justin Herbert, because I do think Justin Herbert is better than Dak Prescott, and I do believe that big things await him in his future.
So, again, what does this mean, right? And first and foremost, I'm really not a fan of Stephen A. Smith. I've always kind of been frustrated with the way he kind of handles himself sometimes in the media, but at any rate, I think he makes some really good points there. So what do you guys think, right? Should Brandon Staley have lost his job blowing that lead in the playoffs? I think some people, I've had some conversations with quite a few people. Some people think yes, some people think no. But I do think it's really an interesting discussion point, right? And you really sit back and ask yourself this question. Brandon Staley's not going to the combine. General manager Tom Telesco is not going to the combine. Okay, why not, right? You should be there, in my opinion, right? Especially after the way we ended our season last year. So there's some question marks there, right, guys? I mean, there's some questions that I have specifically, and I keep thinking to myself, okay, well, why? Why not, right? And yeah, again, you believe in your staff and whoever, but at the end of the day, guys, it still falls on you, right? And Brandon Staley, he's got to turn this team around, right? I mean, I think there's a lot of things that we can say are good, but there's some things that need to be fixed as well too. So let's get into the meat of this article. And I think the cool thing about this article, really, it does show a lot of really interesting points around that quite frankly, we've talked about quite a bit during this offseason already. We've talked a lot about how, that bottom line, the Chargers have a lot of things that they've got to start focusing on to improve this team moving forward. But also at the end of the day, we've got a lot of things that we need to start focusing on to get our offense moving correctly. So, and this really what this whole situation is, right? So Moore inherits a unit that's ranked 14th in offensive efficiency, 22.5 points per game, 10th in the NFL, leaving plenty of room for improvement. You know what? It's interesting though. And again, if you listen to Kellen Moore's interview when he got hired on, he's like, he really wants to do the run and the pass, right? The 50-50, the blend. I think that makes a lot of sense. But it's interesting. Telesco says we're going to probably have a new vision and approach on offense. Yes, of course we are, right? Thanks, Tom, for telling us the obvious, right? We always been a passing team. We have Justin Herbert. We want to throw the ball, right? But we're never going to be a 50-50 balance team, which is kind of contrary to what Kellen Moore said. Kellen Moore really wants to do a 50-50 type of situation. You probably say 60-40 probably makes more sense. But again, we are going to be relying on the run a lot more. So it'll be interesting to see how that definitely plays out moving forward. And it breaks down all the offensive units on this list, right? So your offensive line, your wide receivers, your running backs, your tight ends. So we're going to go through each one of those sets, and we're going to go through the numbers, people we may be losing through free agency, and kind of moving forward. So it's going to be really interesting. So again, a 10-7 season, right? We lose. I still can't believe how, in spectacular Charger fashion, we lose by 1 point, right? And I keep going back to the Joey Bosa. There's just so many things that could have happened differently in this whole situation, but a 27-point lead. Yeah, can't run the football, can't do anything. It just killed us, right? So I don't really want to go too deep into Justin Herbert. Again, good fuel for the offseason. Hey, they can improve, right? Anyways, a couple things that we've discussed a million times on this channel. We even talked about it on our live on Sunday. We are currently $20 million over the cap. Okay. So the adjustments have to be made. And again, March 15th is the compliance time. And so it'd be really interesting to see how this really plays out, right? Bottom line, it's one of those situations where, okay, what is Kellen Moore really jumping into, right? And I think this is a good breakdown of what we have. So again, the way that they broke it down, this is great, satisfactory, and needing adjustments. So quarterback, great. We all know what Herbert can do. I don't really want to go too deep into Herbert, right? Because at the end of the day, we all know what he is and what he isn't now at this point. I mean, he's a fantastic quarterback. You know that. I know that. The man is a fantastic quarterback. I'm just really excited to see it. Again, he broke Andrew Luck's record for the first most yards thrown in the first 3 seasons. He's our franchise quarterback. I mean, he is the guy. I mean, I can't think of another quarterback in the league you'd want to build an offense around. And think of it this way. Again, Kellen Moore gets exited out of his job at the Cowboys, right? And the Chargers were very, very they waited a long time to make a decision on their offensive coordinator. Then when that happened, I think it wasn't even 24 hours. He was a Charger. Brandon Staley clearly had a vision of where he wanted this to go. And I think once his name was available, he said, yeah, he's our guy. We want you. What's it going to take? And think of it from Kellen Moore's perspective, right? If you remember at the beginning of this season, Kellen Moore was really the next guy in line to be a head coach somewhere. Okay. So let's just fast forward to next year. Let's say we were ranked 14th. Let's see, what are we? 14th? 14th in offensive efficiency. Let's say he bumps these numbers up to top five in the league. I promise you, Kellen Moore will not be our offensive coordinator next year, right? In 2024, he will not be our head coach, or he will be head coach somewhere else. And you have to think about that for a second, because for him, yes, it's a lateral move. I mean, technically, it's not a lateral move because he didn't have a job anymore. But at the end of the day, he's doing the same role for the Chargers that it is for the Cowboys, right? So, but it would be a stepping stone to show what he can do and how he can improve a team moving forward. So that's why I'm so excited about Kellen Moore. I do think that he can do the right things. If you see the offense that he ran with the Cowboys, if he did something similar to the Chargers, it's game over, guys. We're going to score points, right? And so it's exciting to see. And they were amazing in the red zone. I don't know if you saw his red zone efficiency. I think they led the league in red zone efficiency, which is absolutely incredible. So pretty cool thing to think about. All right, so let's talk about the wide receivers, right? Again, we got Allen, we got Williams. Again, injuries, right? We know Allen has been hurt. We've talked quite a bit about Allen. But again, this is interesting. Rumors have swirled that Allen, who played 10 seasons for the Chargers, could become a salary cap casualty. Guys, we've been talking about this. This is one of the things that we've discussed, that he might be gone. What if you could trade him off for a 2nd-round pick or maybe a 3rd-round pick, and we lose all of that cap space? Guys, at the end of the day, he missed a lot of game, but again, he's Herbert's favorite target. And the argument could be made, though, but you know what? He can make somebody else Herbert's favorite target. What about Josh Palmer? We are stuck with Williams. We can't let Williams go anytime soon. At least I don't believe we can. I think there's a lot there that, he's going to be there for a while. But Allen could be a guy we could let go. He's been with us for such a long time. And again, Telesco was very clear. It's not tempting to me. Okay. Good players make money. And, that's a good point, right? Tom makes a great point, right? If you're a good player, you're going to make money. Now, the thing that I have really liked about Telesco since he's been here in Los Angeles is the Spanish family under Brandon Staley is able to spend money. I think Brandon Staley's finally got the Spanish family to say, guys, look, you want to win games, you got to spend money. You got to make sure that we're utilizing all the salary cap every year. So Telesco has a tough job ahead of him. He needs to either sit Allen down and restructure his contract, which could happen, which I actually think would happen. In my opinion, it's not difficult to sit down and have a conversation with Keenan Allen and say, hey, Keenan, we are over the salary right now. We need you to do us a favor. I know you've been with us for 10 seasons. Please, we want you to retire as a Charger, but we need to restructure your contract. And, we need you to be that guy and show, people on this team that it's not always about the amount of money you're getting. I mean, he's going to get paid so much money next year anyways. Guys, let's ask ourselves this question. Who can spend $14.8 million in a single year? Not many people. Okay. Not many people. And, that's a lot of money. And so, you know, I think it's a pretty simple conversation you can have man to man with somebody and potentially restructure contracts. But that's Tom Telesco's job. That's what he has to do this offseason to make those numbers work. So it'll be really interesting to see. And then I think Palmer can step up again this next season. I think he'll be fine. Anyway, so there's a lot to be said about a lot of this. Now, this part's pretty interesting. What Moore says here: speed is always dangerous, and I really do think that in this league, speed is huge. Think of the Dolphins; like that's their whole shtick. It's they have speed. They have so much speed on that team. It's very difficult to defend. It's a huge advantage, is what Moore says. So I wouldn't be surprised if they picked up some sort of fast wide receiver, right? In the draft or potentially in free agency if they can make the numbers work. It'd be really interesting to see how that'll play out. And again, Telesco talks a little bit about that. We'd love to have a 4-3 receiver, but it's tough. And again, one of the guys we're probably losing is DeAndre Carter, most likely. It's sad because I think DeAndre Carter is absolutely fantastic, but he's it'll be interesting to see what happens with DeAndre Carter specifically. I mean, I actually really hope they keep him, but you just kind of don't really know. But he's an unrestricted free agent. I think a lot of teams will come knocking for him because he had a great season with Justin Herbert. But again, you also have to argue, was that Justin Herbert, was that DeAndre Carter? Quite frankly, I think Herbert makes everyone look good, right? He is so good across the line. Again, we're talking about the offensive line now as well too. It needs adjustments. I still think, and let's go through the statistics, and I'm gonna give my opinion on Justin Herbert specifically. Um, Again, we do need some lines. We've had some injuries. We know about Corey Linsley, Trey Pipkins, Jamari, Rashawn. Everything that happened last season was just so unfortunate. I mean, again, injuries. So, but look at these numbers. We finished with a pass blocking win rate of 56.6, ranked 23rd in the league. Run block rate of 70%, 28th in the league. Wow. Guys, that's not good statistically speaking right now. And I would argue, and again, this is my point about Justin Herbert, I would argue this is actually worse than it's even showing. Justin Herbert's very good about climbing the pocket or maneuvering in the pocket well enough and still getting the ball off at his target. So the argument could be made, there's a lot of work that needs to be done here. And really, how good was Jamari Salyer last year anyways, right? Because a lot of times what I saw was Herbert would see that there was pressure coming on his left side and he would just step up and just move away from the pressure, right? And again, that's a good quarterback maneuvering in the pocket. But again, is he that good? I mean, Rashawn Slater is that much better, but who knows? These are some things that really need to be discussed. I really do think we need to sign Trey Pipkins. I think he had a great season. He played through injuries all last season, but he's going to get paid a lot of money. So be interesting to see if we can make that happen. If not, then he's probably going to walk and get paid a lot more money somewhere else. And so pretty interesting, conversation with Trey. We'll see how that plays out. But so, and again, this is a good quote from Brandon Staley. There's a different level that we need to play at offensively, particularly in the line of scrimmage and in the run game. See, I agree. I think there's a lot of things we did wrong. Again, the run block win rate was very bad. Like for whatever reason, our offensive line play was just that bad. We just did not do well. So it'll be interesting to see how Kellen Moore switches that up. Now, I did see a lot of videos talking about Kellen Moore's offense that he has with the Cowboys. He runs a lot of heavy sets, right? So like a lot of 2-3 tight end sets, or even bringing an extra offensive line. He likes a lot of gut on the line and just overpower the box. And I think that makes a lot of sense in the NFL because a lot of teams like the Chargers are going to much lighter boxes, right? So they're only rushing 5 guys and they're keeping more people back. So these bigger sets, or jumbo sets is what a lot of people like to call them, would work very well because you're just overpowering the line and you can easily get 3 or 4 yards. So it does help in the run game. So it'll be interesting to see how that changes. But again, what you need is butt and gut. You need some guys that can step in and open some holes, right? And so you keep letting some of these guys go, it's going to be a lot harder to make the run game work. So again, there's a lot to be said about that, right? Again, Brandon Staley keeps saying there's a different level that we need to play at. And we need to have a marriage of the run and the pass, creating more explosions on early downs. And I agree, right? I mean, it's too predictable to run the ball first and second down, and then you pass on third, right? That's too predictable. The other team knows exactly what you're going to do, makes it very easy to defend you, right? So, anyways, yeah, they're talking about Jamari. Like we're going to figure out the best role. Anyways, totally fine. Now, the one person that I do want to talk about on this too, and it's when we start talking about salary cap, is Matt Filer. I think there's not even a chance in hell we sign him or continue signing him. I just think he's done. He had a bad season. I wouldn't say he had a terrible season, but he did not have a great season, right? So it will be interesting to see what happens here. But that's 6.5 million. Again, yeah, anyways, it'll be very interesting. And also, Will Clapp is scheduled for free agency. So I think there's a lot of people that we're probably going to be losing. Again, that's the thing about the NFL. No matter what, that's the argument is the NFL. These teams roll over quite a lot. So it'll be very interesting. So running back, need adjustments. Look, I kind of agree and I kind of disagree with this. I think we have a lot of good running backs, but we don't have, and the argument can be made, we have one great running back and the rest are good. And you ask yourself this question: is Austin Eckler that much better than somebody else? Well, yeah, he actually really is. I mean, think about how much he scored on us last season, for us last season. The last 2 seasons, he scored 40 touchdowns. This is crazy. But again, he's more of a wide receiver than a running back. And in my opinion, I actually wouldn't. If I'm Kellen Moore, I would use him more as a wide receiver to some degree. You put him in the backfield and then move him to the edge or the slot receiver. That would go over very, very well. And I could see him doing that a lot more this next season because I really think Kellen Moore thinks outside the box. And that's really what we needed as an offensive coordinator last year, which we did not have. But again, Moore said, Vantage Point, Austin's done a remarkable job. Josh Kelly's done very well. Again, we still have Isaiah Spiller, right? He's the youngest player in the NFL draft last season, right? He's the youngest guy. And again, he is going to be a fantastic running back in this league. He just needs to learn how to block better against the pass. And that's really what he's struggled with. But again, these 3 guys, Austin Eckler, Josh Kelly, and Isaiah Spiller, are you kidding me? Those are great running backs, right? So I can see us fielding 3 running backs this next season. Now, there's been a lot of discussions around us going after Bijan Robinson. Look, I'm going to give you my opinion on this. I think we have other things that need to be fixed over, getting another running back now. And I understand the argument, right? But this league is a passing league, and when you have a guy like a Justin Herbert who throws the ball, and Tom Telesco, a general manager, and Brandon Staley, head coach that really likes to see Justin Herbert throw the ball, I don't know that you're going to go for a running back in your first pick, right? I think there's other things that can be fixed quicker. I mean, what about getting an awesome guard to fill in for, probably losing Matt Filer, right? What the best guard in the league, right? Or the best guard in the draft. Might not be a sexy pick for the first round, but you know what? It's what we need to keep Justin Herbert upright and get our running game going where it needs to go. I can see that being a bigger need, or a tight end, which we're going to talk about a little bit later on here as well too. So again, I think our running backs are fine, right? And again, when I say need adjustments, see, I agree with that, but what I really think needs to happen is the line needs to improve, right? These numbers need to get better. And that's really where I think Moore will shine as an offensive coordinator. I think he'll do a very good job of mixing up the pass and the run game as well too. So it's kind of good. So anyways, it'd be very interesting to see. Our run numbers need to be better. Again, the Bulls averaged 3.8 yards per carry last season, 30th in the league. But again, Eckler caught the ball, 110, 115 times. That was just a ridiculous amount of catches for a running back, right? So again, you could argue he's a running back, yes, but is he really a running back? I'd argue he's not. He's really more of a hybrid, kind of a Deebo Samuel type of guy, right? He's just an athlete, knows what he's doing, and needs to get there. So, okay, cool. So let's talk a little about our tight ends, and then we'll wrap up the video. So right now, we all know the situation through Gerald Everett. So this is interesting. Chemistry grew through Gerald Everett, who joined the team on a 2-year, $12 million contract, expected return. I think it's a $7 million contract is what he gets. But Gerald Everett, I think did a great job for the Chargers. But here's the thing. I don't know. Gerald Everett and really Filer are the 2 people that I've seen that are saying he's probably going to be salary cap casualties. So who knows, though, right? You never really know how that's going to play out. Maybe we make a blockbuster trade off Allen or somebody, just to alleviate some of the cap space. But who knows how that's going to play out. And Everett had a great season, right? He had 87 catches, almost 600 yards, and 4 touchdowns. I still think he was underutilized. I think there were more jet sweeps that should have been used. Lombardi talked about it all the time, but they never used it. And it was just so weird to me that we went away from what they talked about at the beginning of the season, never showed it during the season. So again, that was my frustration with Lombardi. He was so bad at making adjustments or making any changes, material changes that improve the team in any way, right? And that was the part that really frustrated me. So, and again, Donald Parham, we still have him. We are most likely going to lose Trey McKitty. I really don't see him coming back. Could move on from Trey McKitty, a third-round pick in 2021 after a challenging second season in which he caught 56.6% of passes and targeted, struggled with blocking assignments. I just really felt like Trey McKitty struggled. So it'll be interesting to see how the tight end groups. Now, again, in my opinion, I still think that this group needs a number one tight end, right? I don't think Gerald's the guy, and I don't think Parham's the guy because of injuries, right? I think Parham is great, but I almost would like to see Parham be more of just this general wide receiver, just a big, tall guy out there, less blocking and more out just in the flat. Everyone knows when he comes in there, he's not really there to block a whole lot. He's not that great at that. That's kind of Trey McKitty's role. But again, I think with Gerald Everett and Parham, I think you could utilize them a little differently, right? But again, the argument could also be made that Trey McKitty is really there for blocking, and he didn't do a great job of blocking. Right. So again, these are the things that have to be decided upon in the offseason. So guys, let's wrap up the video. I know we're getting a little long here. So look, my general thoughts is this, guys. The Chargers got a lot of decisions to make this offseason, right? I think one of the biggest things that we have to discuss is, how Kellen Moore is going to be running this offense. Secondarily, also, who are we going to lose in free agency? So what do you guys think? I mean, Stephen A. Smith specifically talked about, hey, Brandon Staley should have been let go. What do you guys think? Do you think he should have been let go after losing that playoff game to the Jags? Also, what are your thoughts on Kellen Moore? I mean, my personal belief is I think he's a fantastic hire. I think Stephen A. Smith was spot on. Brandon Staley was lucky that the Cowboys let him go and we were able to snatch him up as quickly as we possibly could. I mean, it was just bananas. It made me think that potentially Brandon Staley was having conversations with him and, hey, would you come over? Would you come over? And then, maybe the conversation was something of the effect of, hey, look, if the Cowboys let me go, do I have a home with you guys with the Chargers? So who knows, guys, but at the end of the day, guys, I'm Andrew Bullprose, Bull Pride 602. Bert, you're the man. Appreciate you. Appreciate all your support. And as always, guys, see you guys in the next one.